In-person training versus online fat loss coaching. Today, we're going to be sharing with you what the difference is. And I have a very special guest joining us here today. I actually met him back in 2019. It was the summer of 2019. I was completely lost. I was an in-person trainer back then, and I didn't know how to do what I'm doing now. And I like to say Eric is a go-giver. He was kind enough to talk to me, and he continues to share a lot of experiences with me and knowledge with me that's helped me get to where I am today. And when we first talked, he was such a open-minded person in the sense of he knew I was lost. I was just like trying to figure out how to make this work, and he was kind enough to be a mentor. And funny enough, I was sharing with him about 2.5 years ago. We were doing a podcast together in April of 2020. And that was the thing that inspired me to join the mentorship program that we're actually both a part of today. So first of all, Eric, I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us here today, and welcome, bro.
Thank you, brother. You're a very nice young man.
And obviously, Eric, you also work with men. You're a father, you're a husband. So why don't we start off this way? Why don't you share with everyone a little bit more about who you are and a bit about your background?
I'm Eric Zapata. I'm a husband, a dad. I have an online training business that I help dads over 35 build muscle, lose fat, and create healthy lifestyles. I won't go too far into it because usually it goes on for a 10-minute speech, but fitness has been a major part of my life since I was a little boy. When I was 11 years old, I lost like 40 pounds, and that's a lot of weight for a little boy to just take upon himself to go lose. So that's when my passion for fitness started, my discipline, my determination. I feel like my gift that God's given me to hand back out to the world. And honestly, I won't lie, I wanted it more for self-esteem. I wanted to get girls in middle school. That's my blunt answer is I want to be a ladies' man, and I lost weight and I got addicted to it and to the fitness part. And I ended up getting girls in middle school and throughout life, and, got well, played a lot of athletics. I was very good, very, very athletic in all that I did. It's been just such a staple in my life, but I've been through a lot of trial and error over 22 years. I've been fat, skinny fat. I've been, buff but not lean, lean but not buff, and then finally, buff and lean. And then I've gotten fat when I started to have, started to have a family, and my business started growing and having big boy problems and real life situations. So I had to relearn how to do everything and make it sustainable. And that's why my business has taken off, because of my relatability to the men that I serve is men who are happily married, great fathers, and they want to be physically fit. It's a way different, situation than somebody who I used to be, 24, 25, 26, just hopping the bars and drinking all the time. And I can go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, no problem. But now it's not like that. I'm a family man. So, it's just helping men still be that family man, that provider, and, become healthy, but not be a slave to fitness like I used to be. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, man. And then one thing I'd love to begin to talk about is the difference between what we do with online training and coaching versus in-person training and coaching. Could you maybe share what you feel like is the primary differences between having a trainer and having someone like yourself?
Yeah, so I used to be an in-person trainer. I used to have my own studio. I worked freelancing out of gyms. That was like 2010. Got burnt out, went back to serving, bartending, etc. And then I found like online training, because I've always been intrigued with just being a real entrepreneur, not like just like a fitness person who just is tied to a job. I wanted to have a business, a real business, and do what I love. Obviously, you can't have a sustainable business without being good at something or bringing value to the world. So I went online, and major things that I've noticed is that like people want results, right? So right, people are not going to pay us money unless they think that you or I can get them results. So I'd say from my experience, most people who seek out for personal training, the result that they're after is some sort of body transformation. I want to look, anybody can say health. Everybody says health, health, health. But as we dig deeper and we ask them why they really want this, I'd say 9 out of 10 answers that come from my men is, okay, you got me, dude. I just want to look good. I want to look good because I don't want to look my best. I feel my best. When I feel my best, I show up. I do well at everything in life. I want to be attractive. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be good looking and taking care of myself. Okay. So most people want a physical transformation so that they can feel good in their own skin, aside from obviously health and longevity. So the thing with in-person training that, is just facts. For you to have a body transformation, you need three things, the workouts, the nutrition, and accountability. Workouts being the last thing that is most important for you to transform your body. 80% of your results is going to be strictly the nutrition that you eat, because you can't outwork a bad diet, and your accountability and adhering to your programming and your commitment outside of going to the gym. So rightfully so, people think that they're doing the right thing by hiring a personal trainer in person. I think I need in person, somebody to be in there and push me. And I always tell people, like, you're not going to do anything. I'm a blunt guy, so I hope I don't offend, but like, you're not going to do nothing. If you need somebody clapping in your hand, in your face every single day saying, come on, let's go, get out of bed, how long is that going to have to go for? You should really have a deep why as to why. For me, like, I wanted to look good, feel good, be good. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, that should be enough motivation. So if you're relying on a personal trainer for motivation, you're not going to last long. It's not a commitment. It's not serious to you. You just had a stroke. You have diabetes. You just had a heart attack. It's not enough motivation for you. So that's one thing, in-person trainers, it's like, hey, you need the motivation, but motivation's crap. You need discipline. You need a real reason why you're doing this. But another thing is, I feel I need somebody there with me, working on, being there and making sure I'm doing the form right, which is all good and all, but at the end of the day, there's ways to work around that, starting people at different things. Like, for example, machines are so easy to use. Everybody can do a machine. A fifth grade girl can go in there and learn how to machine. You can say, here, grab the handles, chest press, push, shoulder press, push up, grab the handles back, pull. And then we start people there and they start to love the journey and they want to learn more. But when it comes to in-person training, you're getting your workouts. You're paying to come into a gym. Most people can't, it's already expensive for them, for most people as it is. So they're paying for this because they're thinking like personal trainers equals results, right? Well, but they don't know the context. They don't know that nutrition and accountability is by far the most important part. And most important personal trainers that work, especially at big box gyms or corporate gyms, they're not going to give you the nutrition or at least teach you how to do macros and calories and push you in a calorie deficit. They're not going to give a crap about you after hours. Once you leave their gym, they rely on you coming back and reading up on your packages, as opposed to my clients, once they're done, they're done. And I'm like, I help them change their life and they're free. So nutrition and accountability, they don't provide. So one thing you're getting is the least important thing is the workout. Let's have a sick workout 3 times a week. And at that, people are getting smarter. They want to have more clientele. They're not doing hour workouts for the most part anymore. It's like, hey, how many people can I squeeze in a day? So they're doing 30-minute sessions or group training. So how really individual is it to you? So you're paying all this money for, group training or, or 2-on-1s, or even if it's 1-on-1, like there, it's like, for example, if you're even doing 1-on-1 training, I used to hate this. When I used to train people, I like you because you make me shut up. It's like the trainers, they talk your ear off, or they're texting on their phone. They're walking you on a treadmill, the same routine. Let's warm up on the treadmill. Let's stretch. Let's do maybe 20 minutes of weight training. Let's cool down and I'll go to the shake bar and I'll see you next week type stuff. Like, really, do not anybody ever catch themselves and say like, man, I've been training with this trainer for 6 months and I still look the same. Yeah. And that's just the facts. I think people just need to like, man, just, sit back and say like, how is my progress coming? So that's the thing is with in-person trainings, there's no knocking them, but when it comes to results, if your main goal, as most people's is a body transformation, you need to have the nutrition most importantly, or at least the guidance and the teachings. You need to have accountability, and then you need to have the workouts. And in-person trainers only provide the in-person training. Come to my gym 3 times a week for 30 minutes and you're out. Like, that's not going to do much for you, and you're going to blow a lot of money. So with that being said, yeah, that's my take on in-person training. And then now I will say that, like, for example, there are people who have like like a couple of my friends are really good trainers, but they more so have their own studios and like they do things their way, not a corporate way. They'll give meal plans or, they'll teach you, they'll provide check-ins and a mobile app outside of hours. But most people don't do that, even if they have their own, LLC or their own, studio and stuff like that. So, and then also another type of personal training, because I don't want to, poop on all of them, but it's just like sport specific, right? Like you need to know your result. Are you after body transformation? Are you trying to jump higher, run faster, etc.? Then I'm not for you. Then you need to go to them because you do need in-person guidance and, in-person work. But for most people seeking that body transformation, you need something that you can meet somebody halfway. They take out the guesswork for you. You do it on your own time. So you don't have to rely on coming to the gym at 5 a.m. on somebody else's time. And then you learn how to do it, meet them halfway. And after 90 days, 180 days, 360, it becomes the new you. And you've taught yourself how to do this for the rest of your life with the meal plan, you've done the reps. And then now you know how to train yourself for the rest of your life and stay healthy. And it's now become a lifestyle as opposed to getting your little 3 sessions in per week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I feel like as an in-person trainer, I've been one as well. I've never gotten my clients before and afters when I was an in-person trainer. It was more like a relationship, and it was more like we're having fun together, we're talking together, and like they're talking to me about all kinds of crazy stuff. But it was never like results-based, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, and even though they probably had the intent of like, I'm going to Ursulon to get results, but at the end of the day, it's just like, everybody's ignorant. They're ignorant to what needs to be done. For example, how many people, 2 examples, how many people go to in-person trainer, work their butt off like crazy, like, wow, that was a great workout. What a sweat. And then after they leave and they go to a Starbucks, get a sandwich and a 500 calorie drink. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not in a calorie deficit anymore. Like you're not going to get fit just because you went to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't outwork a bad diet. That's one scenario. But how many people go to the personal trainer and then their last workout on a Friday, and then they go get smashed the whole weekend. They go drink Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all day long for football. They eat whatever they want, and they come back and they're like, "Huh?" And then your personal trainer, "How's your weekend?" "I got fucked up. I got smashed." You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's the same thing with insanity. And then they just keep paying for personal trainer. You might as well just cut it off. You're not going anywhere unless you get the nutrition right and the accountability. So,
yeah, and let's talk a bit about that as well, right? Like, I've seen people say, you know what? I feel like I need to work with a nutritionist. And I have a registered dietitian on my team. I am a nutritionist, but I'm not licensed. I'm not a registered dietitian. But let's talk about that as well, because that's also a misconception, right? People think like, oh, I need to go to a nutritionist. What's the difference there between a nutritionist and maybe something like what we're doing?
So I think like a nutritionist or a dietitian has its purposes. But the thing is, it's like you being ignorant to the idea of if I hire a personal trainer, I'm going to get results. Well, let's hold on real quick. A nutritionist or a dietitian, from what I've seen for the most part, is those are the people that you need to hire for just general health. Like, hey, they're the ones, if you have a disease, you have diabetes, heart problems, something that is, medically prescribed or whatever it is, then that's what you need to do for your cancer, for your diabetes, your heart problems, etc. Then that makes sense because you're not caring about your body, you're caring about just being overall healthy and I got to eat what this lady tells me to eat. But as far as and that's a dietitian, nutrition, as far as a body transformation, they don't know shit about that, about transforming the body. It's a whole different, because there's only so much you can learn in a textbook. This is one size fits all. I don't care what college you went to, what degree. You know how many people I know that are personal trainers that I have 14 certifications, and I have a kinesiology degree at the best college, and they can't get results for shit.
Dude,
they can't get results for nothing. But then you have me, who's been through something for 22 years, trial and error. I only coach people who are just like me, and I have a folder of over 500 transformations right here on this computer alone, not including the people who there's numerous people who just lost 20 pounds, but they're not like before and after worthy. But that's still a crazy accomplishment. 20 pounds in 90 days, 40 pounds in 180 days. That's huge to somebody. But like before and after worthy, 500, just like right on my computer. But the next person, they can't help because they don't know what it's like because they're so into their textbooks as opposed to doing trial and error and really, having experience, dabbling and changing things up. It's just a whole different about learning about the macros and the calories. When you pull, you don't want to pull too soon. You don't want to bring people so low in calories that they're not going to be able to sustain all that stuff. So like, it's a whole different ball game. If you're looking for a body transformation diet, I laugh. I laugh and not in a person's face, but I just let people go. I'm like, I actually, it's kind of, I don't want, hey, I hope it's not arrogant or egotistical, but I, hey, oh, you're gonna get a nutrition salon? Okay. Hey, how about in 6 months? Am I free to contact you, see how your results are? And then they say, sure. I text them. They never reply. Why? Because they know what it is. They didn't do shit. The nutritionist is like, okay, we're going to start with the food pyramid. We're going to start, measuring your food with your palm. Your chicken breast should be any kind of protein should be. It's so general, as opposed to learning, hey, this is how we're going to get you in a calorie deficit. These are your macros, your calories, protein, carbs, and fats. Based on, how fat somebody is, or how, skinny or hard gainer somebody is, or somebody is an athlete with a ton of muscle, what's the best macronutrient split type stuff, and setting them appropriately because you have experience. And you're just like, dude, I'm gonna give you a good ass example. And Airson, I'm gonna give you props. Even though I know you're like Middle Eastern or something like that, you're one of us, like us Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans and black folks, we take pride in getting haircuts like every week. Most of us, we got we always get lined up fresh.
Oh, I do too. I get my haircut every week.
Not saying white folks don't do it too. I'm just saying. I'm gonna give you. I came up with this analogy myself.
My man.
Check this out, and this is gonna be like, wow, that makes so much sense. Let's say all the people, and God bless them, right? They go to the most prestige hairstyling school in all the United States of America. I don't know the name, but let's just say it was Aveda. Probably not, but like they're probably not the highest. But I'm saying, let's say I went to Aveda and I got the certifications and I went to classes and everything. Yay. And I got a job at a big time salon. Have you ever seen a haircut? Like some of these people that just like, they got the best certification, but like you see some of these people, like they give like bowl cuts, like, can I have a nice fade? And it's a bowl cut. And it's just like, and that's $80. And as opposed to you come to the hood, you won't see a damn line. It'd be like the most crispy, perfect fade. Like you won't see a line. The lining is perfect. The beard is so perfect. Everything's so perfect. It's like, and this person, some of them ain't even licensed, but at the same time, the most basic school just so they can get the licensing for the state board or whatever they got to do just to get the bare minimum. Because what they did do is sit there when they were a teenager and kid and make side money and practice and practice and practice because it was their passion. Literally, go look up, type in, I don't know, Puerto Rican fade, and just type in Aveda fade. You'll see like the difference is like a bowl cut fade, just general. The difference in the passion and then how good the result and after is compared to what they teach in one size fits all school.
100%, man. That's a phenomenal analogy, dude.
Huge, right? Dietitian, like, yeah, I'm gonna get a dietitian. Great. Why are you so fat? You know what I'm saying? Like, cool. You might be healthier more term, but it's not like I'm giving my clients like, okay, my clients are coming to me saying like, okay, I'm eating out every single day. Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Five Guys, every single day of my life, pizza. You think that they're not going to get like, you think I'm doing a disservice by saying, hey, we're going to switch over to things like brown rice, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, chicken breast, extra lean ground beef, ground turkey, fruits, veggies, organic produce. You're not a dietitian or certificate, like you really think that like I'm gonna mess their life up? The person that's going out to eat like shit every single day of their life and switching them over to eating whole healthy foods organically.
100%, man.
So,
and I also want to comment on something you were mentioning, like cancer and diabetes earlier. Well, I mean, I've experienced this with my own clients, and I know you have as well. Where people like, I know specifically one of your clients, I think I was reading, reversed their cancer. And they've reversed.
Reverse cancer.
I'm sorry, like in remission of cancer.
Not even that. No, but it was reversed. I've had people reverse diabetes. That's
okay.
People with type 2 diabetes can reverse it if they, they get all their, all their stuff right and their A1C and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just due to healthy lifestyle, eating the right foods and dropping the weight, and using much more healthy, whole organic foods.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can't say that. Can't say that.
No, my bad. I thought I read that, but I must have.
But it's definitely to do with the diabetes for sure. Like people with type 2 diabetes can reverse their diabetes.
Absolutely. And dude, like I even feel like with like nutritionists, registered dietitians, like there's no before and afters. There's never a result that they can show you. Same thing with trainers. Like you were mentioning earlier, like it's so generic what a trainer learns. It's like, I'll work with the mom and like I'll work with the kid and I'll work with the dad. And it's like, whereas you're working with, it sounds like one type of person and you've mastered that type of person.
And it's not just about the result only. It's also about the lifestyle, right? I know what it's like to, and the key is like, you can work with a dad who's a single dad, divorced. It's a whole different world than somebody who's married, a present father, spends a lot of time with the kids like myself and stuff like that. it comes down to time management. So these guys that pay us well is they don't have time for BS. They need the result. They want result number one, but they also want speed and conveniency. They want zero guesswork. So you're paying for that. They're sick of being fat and tired, lethargic, brain fog, no ambition, So therefore they're willing to pay for that shortcut and cheat codes because there's so much misinformation, but also just so much clutter on the internet that they're like, I'm 42. I can't just keep watching YouTube videos and going and doing trial and error for, it's 7 months. I'm like down 6 pounds, when I'm supposed to be down, I could have lost 40 or 50 healthy pounds. And then before you know it, they just quit on themselves. Oh, it's a cycle. So it's like, I'd rather just pay for the cheat code. Just tell me exactly what to do to get the answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, they're paying for not only the no guesswork in the plan, but the speed. Because, dude, 22 years, you've compressed that into a 90-day, 180-day, 360-day transformation for these guys. They don't have to spend that time doing all the trial and error that you did.
It's systematic to me, man. And then also I've created a system where now I have 2 coaches that work with me and are my best friends, and that's it. Like, I've taught them, and like I can literally train somebody up in a day on how and everything to do. Like, when this happens, you do this. When this happens, you do this. And it's just like, it's systematic because I work on one type of problem, one kind of niche, and I can teach it over and over.
Yeah, 100%. Whereas like an in-person trainer, a nutritionist.
Yeah, imagine if I'm trying to teach these 2 guys, like, okay, so if we have a power lifter here, we're gonna do this, and then there's 100 things that can happen this way. And if we have a mom that's nursing here, we've got a grandpa that's 75 years old, that has an amputated like 35 to 55, or 25 to 35, whatever, like, this is specific. And then there's so many people in the world to serve, and the more specific you are, because there's never going to be not enough business. So the more specific you are, the more they'll gravitate to us, and we become, there's a huge bond there because we truly understand them, what they're going through, and the result that they're after because we've experienced it ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I really admire about your program is you are working with people just like yourself. Like, It doesn't really make sense, like, for someone to work with, like, as an example, like a young woman to work with a mom who has several kids. She doesn't understand the lifestyle. Whereas it sounds like you are working with people just like yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I give this example all the time. For example, like, somebody's saying, like, once in a while, once in a great while, somebody could be like, why would I pay you this much? I can pay an IBFF Pro to help me do this too, for a little cheaper. You know what I say?
Yeah.
Go, motherfucker, go. I don't care. What I'm saying? Go, see what they do. And then the reason being is because after a while, it's like jokes on you type stuff. Because if you are somebody who's married, has a kid, and you're gonna go to this 27-year-old or 29-year-old IBFF Pro, how do they get their results? How do all of their clients get the results? You got to think about that stuff, right? You're going to be in the gym 6 to 7 days a week. You're going to always be obsessing about food. You're going to always be eating out of containers. There's going to be zero room for error. They're going to say, just deal with it. Because that's the body I've been through it. The physique culture is just deal with it. So you're signing up for that, but they don't know that, right? They're just thinking about the accomplishment of that person as opposed to all these results over here on my side, but how I've created everything to adapt to a busy father's life. You know what I'm saying? So go for it. Let me know how you like it. Once again, they won't hit me back.
Yeah, no,
that all matters is beside the result is this program for me and my lifestyle and the way I want to do things.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get tripped up. They feel like they need something in person, and they feel like they need that attention. So how do you feel like we're able to bridge that gap where they still feel like they're being held accountable without having to be, handheld every step of the way with someone in person?
Well, I mean, with technology, I'm sure we all have mobile apps now. Anybody that has a nice sized business or doing well, we all have mobile apps. So, the video demonstrations on every single exercise in our app, and like on my app, I know, like, hey, I tell my people, how many sets, these are exercises you're gonna do, same order, sets, reps, time of rest, video demonstrations. We're gonna track all your workouts, everything step by step as you're working out. You're literally punching in the numbers you're lifting. You're literally pressing the time ticker to do your rest breaks. So it's very play along. You know what I'm saying? So like if you don't know how to do it, but also a trainer knowing that, your level of experience. I always ask my clients before signing up with me where they're at, how much weightlifting experience do they have? If somebody, is never been they've always been a cardio bunny or like a cross, what's it called, cross country runner type athlete, I'm not going to start them with, advanced workouts. Honestly, I just like to start people that they can't mess it up. Literally is like, hey, let's just do machines for your first 90 days just to get you feeling good about yourself. You're participating, you're building muscle, but you can't mess up machines. Push, pull, push with your legs, simple stuff. And then before you know it, you'll start to love the process, and then we'll start to like learn a bit, maybe start doing barbells and stuff like that, up, down, things like that, box squats and stuff like that. You get more advanced. Before you know it, they're, 3/4 of a year in with you, and they're doing cables, barbells, dumbbells, etc. So like, that's another thing. That's a coach's part, is to make sure that they're starting where they need to start, where they can still participate but not feel overwhelmed, like they feel like they're the person in the gym, being Snapchatted all the time or made fun of. So
yeah, speaking of, how do you help your guys overcome, if they haven't been to a gym before, overcome that fear of going to a gym the first time?
I don't really have that problem. I think it's because our content, starts with the client, the client hiring us. So like, I repel a lot of people who are complete beginners. Some of my guys are beginners, but not complete beginners. I've been to the gym, I've lifted some. I had that problem a lot when I served moms only. I went from working with women only, which they were great. My women were beasts in the gym, but then I started like, let me narrow down one more time. And I went to moms for a whole year, and I was just getting a ton of moms. It was just, I had to get out of it. I was like, this is not it. This is a great trial and error. But they're the ones who that was their main concern, is gym intimidation, which rightfully so. I understand it with women, feeling like men are preying on them, looking at them, or they feel stupid, if they're not doing something right. So I was like, always, saying, oh, well, I just talked to them like a dude. I said, yo, like, the only way you're going to get better at anything is by doing. So we'll start you out in a place that's simple, and you should be just fine. But yeah, I don't really deal with that one so much now.
Awesome, man. Cool. And in regards to the results that you've gotten your guys, I'm just curious if you could share a bit in regards to like, what does the average guy achieve within like a 90-day period? So I've seen your results, dude. It's like, it's fucking crazy. You would think it was like a year.
Yeah. So it's a little different now. Because as I'm growing and I'm aging, the things that, because as a coach, you learn and you say, hey, I used to do things differently, and I've learned, and I am going to take that back and start to change a little bit. And it's also how I'm training myself these days and age. Back in the day, I used to be the person who always wanted a result in a time frame, because I feel like a deadline holds you accountable. But now it's like, before I was known for the guy, like any person over like 25% body fat, that was my shit, is 90 days, average client losing from 25 to 30 pounds. And not like it's so bad where they can't sustain it, but a healthy 25 to 30 pounds. But now I'm all about like just building muscle, losing fat, sustainability. I don't do any 90 days for the most part anymore, more like 6 months and on. So that's the thing we're focused on more so, is just consistent building muscle, losing fat, and making it a lifestyle change. So we're not really focused on the scale number anymore. But back in the day, that's what I was known for, and it was a great marker. But now I can care less about the weight. So when a client comes on and say, hey, this is what I predict, is, I like to be a little conservative and say, we're going to aim to lose about 0.5% to maybe even 1% body fat or body weight per week, depending on how heavy you are. That's a good target. But at the end of the day, are you cool with this? They're like, absolutely, that sounds great. But then I do want you to know, at the end of the day, if we don't hit this, I can assure you're going to have amazing results. But like, we're not just tied up on the number, because you very well can build a ton of muscle and look night and day. Are you okay with that? They're going to go, yes. So like, it's more so just about overall body composition and losing body fat percentage. But so does it make sense? So like, before it was 30 pounds in 90 days, what I was known for, now it's like just building muscle, losing fat, creating a healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. I mean, I've seen like the testimonials that you've been posting lately, the guys sharing their stories, and it really seems like it's changing their life in a very positive way. So it's awesome. Yep. Dude, would you say there's anything you want to also add? There's nothing coming to mind right now in regards to other things we could talk about in regards to the differences.
No, man. I think we touched on most of it. I think that was the topic you wanted me to discuss with you. Online training Really is it? I think it's like a pinnacle type thing. Is people eventually evolve where they're just like, I need something like this as opposed to in-person training. And I think one of the biggest things is people don't want to feel tied down to a specific time. Like my trainer can get me in at 4:30 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, but not 5 at night when I'd rather go. So they're always relying on. So that's a huge thing to think about too. Is where I have to go to the CrossFit or the Zumba class at this time. Like I'm tired, and if I don't show up because that's when the class is, I'm screwed for the day. It's like, or I can just go to the gym whenever I want to, whenever I have time that day. So I think that's a huge thing, is doing things on your own terms, but also learning and having that knowledge that will always be with you that is invaluable. So.
Absolutely. That actually reminds me, and I want to ask a question. How do we help people understand, like when they look at something like in-person training or a class or like even a monthly membership, and, I feel like some people struggle with this where they're penny. What's the phrase? Is it penny wise, dollar foolish, if you will? So some people struggle with this of investment. How do we help people understand the value of the investment versus when they begin comparing it to something like a trainer or something like a boot camp class?
I'm not sure if this is the answer you're looking for, but as far as the ROI and the investment is, because obviously I think you do, but I charge my worth. I charge great value because I charge based on the value and the result that this person's going to get. This person that's coming with me has been struggling with their weight for the last decade, and they haven't been in shape since they were in college, right? They hate how they look. They hate how they feel. Their kids don't respect them. Their wife's not physically attracted to them. They're having heart problems. Their doctor's yanking at them, telling you need to get something going. They hate being in pictures. They hide behind people while they're in pictures. Like all this shit adds up. And so this is for 10 years now. They can't figure it out. They've tried the classes. They tried the diets. They've lost it. They gained it. And then there's me. And then they come and do it the right way. It's the investment that you don't know. Like working with me, you're going to get 10 times the amount you pay me back at least, because what you're going to pay for is going to get you back in return your confidence, your energy, your productivity, your longevity, your health, your ambition, all those things, your mental clarity. You're going to become a new man. And you paint that picture for the client, but you're going to do it fast tracked with no guesswork. Instead, you can keep messing around for the next decade and wonder if you're going to ever get there, or we can do this. And I always, any smart person who's actually good at what they do, I'm sure you probably do too, is have a money back guarantee. Is if we don't hit a certain minimal result after our time's done, I'll give you every dollar back. How can you lose? So therefore, my clients, they don't ever get their money back because they do their part and they get the result that we said we're going to do. And they are so happy because it was that, it's rightfully so, a little timid to try something and invest this much money in it, and it may not work, but what's there to lose? Because there's not a lot of people that do money back guarantees in our field.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, that's how confident I am myself. As long as you sign here on the dotted line and say and I don't make it impossible for my clients. Like, you need to work out 7 days a week. You could never have a cheat meal. Then that's like a scam. But it's like, dude, let's, hey, four days a week is very reasonable in the gym, 1 hour workouts. You can have a cheat meal once per week. You got to make sure you never miss a check-in. So you got a guy because if they do all their stuff, they're going to get amazing results. So it holds them accountable. But two, is not where it's like it's impossible to never get their money back. So it's very kind of like, hey, yeah, I can do this. And then at the end of it, they're like, dude, I am so freaking glad. And they pay you again. They're like, let's go for another run because of what you've helped them do. Before they were tripping, like, I don't know, there's a lot of money. But now they're like, man, take it because I love who I've become. Like, I'm 55 years old. Like, I had sex with my wife 3 times in the last year, and now we're having sex 3 times a week. What happens, and it's not because you're like just big macho. It's because it's just like your confidence in how magnetic you are, and the person. Physical fitness is crazy what it does to an individual's life, and not like bodybuilders, egotistical, always in the mirror type stuff, but just overall, it builds confidence and just energy, and it's a beautiful thing when you take care of yourself.
100%, man. 100%. Well, dude, thank you so much for sharing that and to helping, because I do feel like a lot of people struggle with understanding what the difference is between a registered dietitian, a nutritionist, an in-person trainer versus what we do with the online training. So thank you for sharing that. And any last thoughts, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up here for today?
No, man, you're a really nice guy.
Yo, you're like low key one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a good day, Ruslan.
Thank you, man. Well, thank you all for watching. If you found this valuable, there are a couple of ways. Actually, before we land off, Eric, where can people find out about what you do and your services and everything?
My name is Eric Zapata, Eric Zapata Fitness, all across all social media.
Awesome.
That's it. But just stay with Urslan. That's good stuff. That's your trainer.
My man. No, Eric, I've learned from Eric, so that says a lot. Eric, thank you again, bro. Thank you all for watching. If you found this valuable, there are a couple of ways that you can help. One is you can like or heart this video, and two is you can share this with just one other person that you believe would also find it helpful. Again, thank you, Eric, for joining us today, and we will see you in our next video.
All right.